Rodri will be good, in the World Cup with Spain. In the World Cup will be the best Rodri.
When Pep Guardiola said Rodri would be the best, back in October 2025, the line sounded like pure delusion. It had only been a few months since Rodri had come back from an injury that tends to end careers, a ruptured knee ligament. 8 months out, surgery, and rehab. And the player who came back didn't look like the same guy, slower to get going, and still far from the level that, a year earlier, had earned him the Ballon d'Or. So when the soccer world heard that Guardiola interview, it reacted with a shrug, just a manager protecting his player. 9 months later, in the World Cup final, Rodri lifted the trophy for the best player of the entire tournament, on top of being world champion, and Guardiola hadn't missed by an inch. The question isn't how Rodri managed to come back, it's how Guardiola already knew. What did he see in a player the whole world had written off that no one else could? To understand why Guardiola sounded insane, we have to go back to the day everything collapsed. September 22nd, 2024, Manchester City against Arsenal. Rodri goes down on his own, clutching his knee. It just gave out. Ruptured right cruciate ligament, plus meniscus damage. Surgery in Madrid. His entire season ended right there, in that single second. And what happened to City afterward was almost cruel. Without Rodri, the team that had won 4 English titles in a row simply stopped working. It lost its way, tumbled down the table, and handed the title to Liverpool. It was a brilliant team, but with no conductor. That's when the world understood how big Rodri really was, through his absence. Away from the pitch, there was a man facing one of the worst injuries in the sport. Rodri himself admitted that, on the darkest days, he doubted whether he'd ever play again. And that's what a ruptured ligament does to a 28-year-old. It's the kind of injury that has dimmed the shine of many a star. A slower step, an explosion that never comes back. One of the best in the world, broken, written off. That was the scenario in which Guardiola bet everything that Rodri would come back not just good, but the best of them all. So back to the question, why was Guardiola so sure? The answer is the most counterintuitive thing in soccer. He knew that everything that makes Rodri Rodri, a knee injury can't destroy it. Watch a Rodri game expecting a spectacle, and you might come away disappointed. He doesn't dribble past everyone. He doesn't fire shots from distance. He doesn't make the runs that get the stadium on its feet. He almost goes unnoticed. But he orchestrates. He positions himself. He thinks. He builds the play. And it looks like nothing. Until you realize almost every move runs through him. There's a line that sums up his game. If you have to sprint to get into position, it means you were never in the right position to begin with. Rodri almost never has to run. By the time the opponent thinks he's found the way through, the ball is already gone, and Rodri is already 3 steps ahead. It's no accident that Guardiola, who has coached the best midfields in the world, says Rodri is the best midfielder on the planet by a distance, because he does everything, and that it's hard to imagine how City won all it won without him. And here's the secret. A ruptured ligament steals speed, explosion, the burst, but it doesn't steal vision, positioning, or anticipation. None of that was ever in Rodri's knee. That's why Guardiola wasn't gambling. He was diagnosing. He knew the injury had no way of killing the part that made Rodri the best. But where does a player like this come from? Because nobody is born knowing how to control a game like that. But hold on. Before I keep telling this story, I want to ask you to subscribe to the channel. It costs you nothing, and you'll help me hit my goal of 500 subscribers before the end of the month. 2007. An 11-year-old boy joins the Atletico Madrid Academy. His name is Rodri. A few years later, Atletico lets that boy go for a lack of physical strength. He wasn't strong enough, wasn't explosive enough. Rodri was cut, still a teenager, for the very thing that would later make his name. Instead of trying to become an athlete he wasn't, he bet everything on what would make him different, the mind. It was at Villarreal that he truly became that, a holding midfielder known not for running, but for reading the game, winning the ball before it even arrived, and distributing it with rare precision. One season back at Atletico, and in 2019 Manchester City paid his release clause, £62 million, a club record at the time. And what was the media's reaction? The same as always. 60 million for a midfielder who doesn't even run? Rodri's entire career was that, underestimated for his body, from being cut at 17 to becoming the most expensive signing in City's history. And every time, he answered the same way. He became the conductor of the most dominant team in England, won 4 straight English titles, was the best in the world in his position, and won a Ballon d'Or. So when Guardiola looked at the injured Rodri, he already knew exactly how far it would go. He'd watched this man be underestimated for his body his whole life, and win anyway. The injury was just the body speaking louder, one more time. And the body was never where Rodri's greatness lived. And Guardiola gave the warning. The world was about to see it all again. On the biggest stage of them all. World Cup 2026. Rodri didn't just come back. He came back as Spain's captain. Game after game, it was exactly the scene Guardiola had described. Rodri in the middle, not running, controlling everything. Spain steamrolled the tournament, and at the center of every match, always him, in control. And then, the final. Spain and Argentina, which means Rodri against Messi. While the whole world watched Messi in his last World Cup appearance, the one running the game was the quietest man on the pitch. In the final, Rodri had 96% accuracy on 105 passes. He won 80% of his duels. Spain suffocated Argentina, and a Ferran Torres goal in extra time settled it. Spain, champions of the world in 120 minutes. And the crowning moment of all that work came after the final whistle. The award for the best player of the entire World Cup didn't go to the top scorer, and it didn't go to Messi. It went to Rodri, a holding midfielder who didn't score a single goal in the tournament, and who still made 799 passes at 93% accuracy. More passes than any other player at the World Cup. The brain, once again, beating the body. And the world, which 9 months earlier had dismissed Guardiola's words, now had its confirmation. Word for word. At the World Cup, he'll be the best Rodri. He hadn't missed a thing. But does that prove Guardiola knew? Or did he just get lucky with a hunch? No, it wasn't luck. Guardiola understood, before anyone else, the most controversial truth in soccer. At the highest level, it's not the one who runs the most who wins. It's the one who understands the most, who sees the play 3 seconds before everyone else, who controls the game not with his legs, but with his head. And that's what changes everything after the injury. A ruptured ligament steals what's physical, the speed, the explosion, the burst. But reading the game, positioning, anticipation, those live in the mind. And the head doesn't rupture. With time, it only gets better. That's why Guardiola didn't hesitate. Everyone looked at the injured Rodri and saw the months out, the damaged body, the speed that might not come back. Guardiola looked at the same man and saw what was still intact, the mind, everything that made Rodri the best. The rest of the world measured Rodri by what you can see. Guardiola measured him by what you can't. That's why he was the only one who saw it coming. Rodri didn't come back to being the best in spite of the injury. He came back because his greatness was never in his body. Guardiola didn't make a prediction. He made a diagnosis. He wasn't hoping to be right. He already knew. I want to ask you to subscribe to the channel. It costs you nothing, and you'll help me hit my goal of 500 subscribers before the end of the month.